Well, gone beautiful. I am Marsha C, and welcome to another episode of Her Sacred Soul Space. Here we have authentic conversations, the one that stirs our heart and expands our soul. And today I have with me, obviously, always my soul tribe. We have Dr. Fisher, Yolande, Nat, and Beatrice, and our special guest, Miss Vanessa Brooks. We're super excited to talk to you today, and we're going to dive into an awesome topic, how to heal after a religious trauma experience. But before we get into that, let's just set the tone so that we can receive all the great information Miss Vanessa is about to share with us. So let's take a moment and just center ourselves by taking 3 deep breaths. We close our eyes and we take 3 deep breaths and just be present.
Yes.
I don't know about you, but I felt super good.
Yes. Good.
Ooh, I'm so excited about that.
Hey.
Wow. Welcome,
Thank you for having me.
Vanessa.
We're so excited to have you here, Vanessa, and to engage in conversation about this very important topic. We noticed Vanessa on Facebook, and when she was hitting it, okay, she's hitting it on Facebook and on TikTok.
Well,
And I'm not going to give anything away. I just know that what she said resonated. It's resonating with people. It's a topic that is very relevant to today, as so many are starting to ask questions. There's, so to speak, waking up. We had our waking up moment, and we want to use our space to be able to speak to those that may be in a similar situation where they're asking questions or they're noticing things and what do I do next or what is happening? And Vanessa has been talking about this. She tells us there's a medical diagnosis being considered
yes.
around this. And I'm not going to give anything away. I'm going to even let her tell you a little bit more about her walk and her background. So Vanessa, welcome again to Sacred Soul Space, her Sacred Soul Space.
Yes.
Happy to have you. Vanessa, tell us a little bit about your journey, how you came to even be in this space. Before we get into religious trauma, tell us a little bit about you.
Sure. So I was raised in the church. Like most of us, we were raised in the church. I went on to answer a calling into ministry. I went on to answer another call into pastoring. I went on to answer another call into becoming an apostle, where I was training other apostles and pastors, traveling around the country preaching. I was good and saved, and
Well,
I was good and saved, y'all. And somewhere over my 30-year journey, the more I think about it, my deconstruction started probably from day one. So yeah, that's how I got into the church. And I was so committed to the church. I loved the church. I loved the people. I loved the Lord. I loved the word. But it took over my life, y'all. It absolutely, my worldview was completely framed around my religious views. And at that time, I thought that was okay. I thought it was normal. But it absolutely took over my life, and I became probably fanatic would be the word that I would use now to describe my position in the church. I took the assignment of pastor very, very seriously. According to what was in the scripture, I needed to take it seriously, because now all of a sudden I've got the weight of trying to care for people's souls. That's a big responsibility, you know? So I just became very weighed down and very burdened down with trying to be the mediator between God and the people. And to be quite honest, because y'all know I'm gonna be honest, I think I took over Jesus's role. I think for many people, I think for a lot of pastors and for a lot of people in the church, we end up becoming God for people, whether that's intentional or whether that's just something that happens unconsciously along the way, because we are the physical representation of God for people. I think the roles got severely reversed. And so it got to a place where I just couldn't do it anymore. Like I physically, mentally, emotionally checked out. At that time, about 2 years before my departure, I was going through a grad program. I got a master's degree in pastoral counseling because I really wanted to help the church. And I couldn't understand how to help them with my limited knowledge. Oh, I was anointed, I could preach, stay on fire. But that wasn't helping the people's lives. And I understood in 2016 that I had taken on more than I was prepared for. Like I think most pastors are not prepared. The boundaries between pastoring people and then becoming other roles to people get severely blurred in ministry. When I went to grad school and got trained to be a professional counselor is when I understood what had happened to me and probably tens of thousands of other people. Those roles got severely crossed. Boundaries got crossed. I didn't understand that because most people, y'all, are not trained to be pastors. Okay. We get a call from God and we go from a calling to God to pastoring a church. And I need people to understand there is so much more to ministry than just preaching. I didn't understand human relationships. I didn't understand psychology. I didn't understand human behavior. I didn't understand boundaries. I didn't understand that there is an art to pastoring people. So long story short, when I went through that grad program, my intention was to initially become a professional pastor, a professional counselor in the church, not just to my church, but I wanted to pastor people all around the country with this degree. But unfortunately, that program also is what woke me up. And I realized that we had a severe problem inside the church. So then my physical health was affected. My blood pressure was getting really high. My hair was falling out, and it's still out. I had acne everywhere. I had hives all over my body. I was sick. I was emotionally bankrupt. I was spiritually bankrupt. I went through tragedy with my daughter, and I couldn't tell anybody, y'all. And that's when I knew I had a problem. My daughter almost lost her life in a very tragic accident. But because of the nature of her accident, I couldn't talk to anybody about it. And that's when I knew the church is in trouble because I couldn't think of one person in the church that I could trust with my daughter's story. So I made the decision to leave. I made the decision in 2019. I took my church through I phased them out, if you would. Between 2016 and 2019, I prepared my church for what would eventually be the closing of our church. And so in 2019, I locked those doors and I came home and I had to start healing myself and my family. And now thousands of other people around the world I'm helping to heal as well.
Oh, wow. That is absolutely amazing. And I think for some of us, a good many of us right here that have been like deeply involved in church ministry, we can absolutely relate to that feeling of burnout, the feeling of not being able to talk about things that may be affecting you, not knowing who to trust, not, having to maybe even feel pressured to maintain certain images, all that stuff that goes on with what we did not know yet as what they're calling now religious trauma. And then having our wake up moment, for you, it was going to school, going back to school from ministry. For some of us, it was intense one-on-one personal time with God early in the morning, those prayers. For some of us, it was Bible study. For some of us, it was experiences. But here we all are talking to you about something that I think we're all familiar with, whether we recognize it or not. So talk to us about what is religious trauma.
Yes.
I love the segue because your segue is what I wanted to mention. I don't think we understand what religious trauma is. I don't think most of the people in the church even understand what's happening to them, even those that are in the church right now, because we've been indoctrinated to believe that all these things that are happening is the enemy, the devil, something else,
Right.
other. So religious trauma, it is something that's being explored at a professional level. And it is something that we're going to probably end up seeing in the DSM in a couple of years. Right now, the newest DSM, which is the Diagnosis Statistic Manual that we use in mental health to diagnose people, there are some subcategories of religious trauma already in that book. And I have that book in my possession. So religious trauma is it's like it's synonymous to post-traumatic stress disorder. But it has to do with religion. And so it's a psychological distress that we experience when we are struggling with our faith, when we are struggling to leave. And we're talking about specifically authoritarian or fundamental dogmatic religions. So I want to be clear. I am not trying to bash the church. There are some healthy churches out there. But we see religious trauma specifically in the fundamental evangelical churches, of which I was a part of, right? So it's a psychological distress. And so we're talking about the mind and the emotional distress of people. Now, this is going to spill over into their spiritual well-being is going to be affected. Their emotional well-being is going to be affected. Their mental well-being is going to be affected. Their sexuality is going to be affected. And the culprit of this religious trauma is a couple of things. So people will either feel the trauma because of the type of ministries that they've been involved in. If there was abusive leadership, then they're going to experience religious trauma from the abuse of the religion itself. And then you're going to experience the trauma through the indoctrination of your religion. For some people, for most people, it's a combination of the two. They've got this authoritarian leadership in addition to the very dangerous doctrines of religion. So then there's this, so some of the symptoms of religious trauma, they vary and they won't be the same for everybody. But some of the top ones some of the top symptoms are fear of God. Okay.
Yeah, very much so.
Yep.
Yeah, very much so.
Fear of death. And the reason people fear
I
death
had that
is because,
one.
and the reason people fear death is because they fear hell. Right?
Right.
So some other symptoms could be things like depression.
Yes. I've done
anxiety.
That.
I had a lot of anxiety.
I've done that.
Stress. Then we're talking about emotional symptoms such as, because this trauma impedes on your entire life. So we see people who have the inability to make decisions for themselves. So their decision-making skills are poor. And the reason decision-making skills are poor when you're trying to leave religion is because of all the indoctrination. There are some people, y'all, and y'all probably know of these people, who, when they're in religion, they seek their pastor's guidance for their decision-making.
Yeah.
They need their pastor to tell them if they should marry this person, if they should work this job, or they need their prayer partner to tell them things. They need the prophet to confirm things. So when people are trying to leave religion and they've been fully indoctrinated like this, they don't have the ability to even make decisions. So it creates a lot of anxiety with their decision-making skills. People who have religious trauma tend to have poor relationships. And that's because your worldview about relationships is toxic because of your religious indoctrinations. You're trained to see people as flawed, right? You're trained to see people as unworthy.
Yeah.
You're trained to see people as sinful.
Yes.
Sinful. And then so many things are labeled sin within religion that you're really unable to have healthy relationships because everything is potentially going to get you in trouble with God. So that's
Right.
creating a lot of anxiety and worry and stress within people. So these are the conversations that I have with people all around the world, that these are the things that they're dealing with. And so it's serious, y'all. And it's the diagnosis that they're working on is religious trauma syndrome. So we're talking about a syndrome. That means that this is something it's going to be recurring in your life. And when you understand trauma, and you understand that trauma is at a psychological level or is at a neurological level, talking about your mind being affected, which is where you think, it's how you process your thoughts, your cognitive abilities. And then we're talking about neurological, which is your brain. So we're talking about brain dysfunction and brain damage. That's what trauma does
Wow.
to people.
Yeah.
And so people who can't sleep at night, there are some people who have physiological symptoms,
That's
such as
awesome.
me with the hair
Yes.
falling out.
Yes.
I suffered
That's
from
awesome.
severe insomnia
Yes.
when I was in
Yes.
religion. I never slept because I was always up warring with demons and warring with the devil and even warring with God all the time. Praying for the people all the time, worried that somebody was going to miss heaven all the time. Again, the physiological changes in terms of my weight was fluctuating up and down, losing weight, gaining weight. Very toxic and dysfunctional relationships within the church. Y'all have seen these cycles of our relationships in the church where we go through seasons where this is my spiritual mother, this is my spiritual daughter, this is my pastor, this is my bishop, and then 3 months later, 6 months later, those relationships are dissolved. Trauma is causing a lot of that.
Yeah.
Because we
Oh.
haven't learned how to communicate properly in religion.
Mm-hmm.
Religion just impedes our normal ability to be human beings. And I know that sounds
Correct.
very
Very much.
harsh.
It's correct. Correct.
The studies
It's
are
correct.
It's correct. It's correct.
the research is
Correct.
there, and
Yeah. It's correct.
this is research. This has nothing to do with Vanessa Brooks
Yeah.
just saying that because she's mad. This is empirical research that shows that this is the case. We don't know how to communicate. We don't know how to have healthy relationships because, again, it's how we view each other. And so when you talk about indoctrination, which indoctrination is what causes this, we believe things without fact checking. So think about the millions
Yes,
of
ma'am.
people, the millions of people who believed that they were born a sinner. Just that one doctrine alone is very toxic,
Very
and
toxic.
dysfunctional,
Yes.
and very traumatizing.
Very
So
toxic.
now just that
Yes.
one doctrine, forget all the other doctrines, that one doctrine,
Yes.
you have to go through your entire life thinking that you are flawed,
Yes.
that God is
Yes.
separate from you.
Insecurities. Everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
It creates all kind of
Insecurities.
insecurities.
Yeah. Everything.
So y'all,
Yeah.
it's a big problem. It's
Yeah.
really, really major. And what I'm asking for, the reason Vanessa Brooks keeps talking, because I want churches, if you're going to remain open, I close mine. But everybody doesn't have to close their church, but you need to at least become what we call a trauma-informed church.
Mercy.
And I want churches to become aware that if you're going
Mercy.
to take on the responsibility of having people under your spiritual care, then you also bear the weight of understanding psychology at some level. You bear the weight of understanding human development at some level. And you bear the weight of the responsibility that these doctrines may be creating, how they may be creating problems for your parishioners. As leaders have to bear that weight at some point. I did, and I made the decision to go home.
Can I ask you this, Vanessa? You're giving us so much to think about, and you're giving us so much to think about, and although we want, or you want, your mission is for churches, if they're going to stay open, to be you want them to be trauma informed. I like how you put that, by the way, trauma informed, right? Wouldn't that take away from the message entirely? Because from my background, from what I've seen, it's mostly built on the idea that you are inferior. it's mostly built on you can't do this by yourself. You are incompetent to do this by yourself, so you need this. Or if you don't do it this way, then you're going to go here, or whatever the case may be. So if it is trauma informed, it takes away the power of fear mongering. So
Yeah.
there you go. You chose to close your church because at the end of the day, and I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but it's almost as the two can't coexist because it takes away from it. Hmm. Now those progressive churches, are they non-denominational?
Suspect so, but I don't know. I've
Mm.
actually talked to a pastor of a trauma informed church.
Hmm.
We do have it. There are a few, but you're right. There's not a
Hmm.
lot, and there's not a lot for that very reason, which is why I'm advocating for it,
Hmm.
because it would absolutely knock down
Hmm.
the basis, the foundational reason why we need a church in the first place,
Right.
right?
Hmm.
But is there a
Yeah.
way
Right.
is there a
Hmm.
Yeah.
way to do it and keep your church open? Yes, if you truly. So, for example, if I was where I am today 4 years ago, I probably would not have closed my church
Hmm.
if I had been in a better place mentally and
Ah.
emotionally.
Got you.
I think you absolutely could have
Got
a
you.
progressive church and take those antiquated doctrines out, because there are some churches that are doing that. Because at the bare minimum, church could just be a place
Worship.
for fellowship.
Hmm. Worship.
At the bare minimum, it
Yeah.
could just be a place for people to come together, um, fellowship together, worship together, encourage one another,
Pray
and
together.
that could be enough.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah.
and then so
Pray
you
together.
don't have
Hmm.
to
Hmm.
interject these antiquated, toxic doctrines in your church. So if people really cared about the parishioners, yes, it is very possible to have a trauma informed, healthy church.
Hmm. Hmm.
But you're right. You would
Mhm.
have to
Hmm.
Yeah.
you would have to also change the entire structure of what your church looked like.
Yeah.
It could not operate the way that most churches operate today,
Yeah.
because it
Yeah.
it would be an
Yeah.
oxymoron to try to do
All
both.
right. Yeah.
But if you strip down the
Mhm.
structure
Right.
and created a new structure, it can be done.
Hmm. Right. Which also includes inclusion, because inclusion is also an issue, which also goes against a lot of the
Yeah.
doctrines. You see what
Yeah.
I'm saying? Uh, yeah. And I feel, well, for me, and I guess everyone has their own journey. For me, it was, like you said, fact checking, and things didn't add up, you know? And because things didn't add up, and I know God is not a God of confusion, He's not going to make you scratch your head and wonder why you said this, what they doing this, or what have you. I had to remove myself from that. It was the hardest thing because, in all honesty, I'm 40, I'm going on 44. I probably totally realized my journey was to remove myself and start worshiping and doing other things spiritually, was when I was 40. So it wasn't that long ago, right? But I realized that it was the brainwashing that was happening, because there are still times where you have to self check. Am I doing this because I was taught this and it was imprinted in my brain for 40 years? Or am I fearful of this because it was imprinted in my brain for 40 years? Or is this really foolishness? You know what I'm saying? And I need to step away from it because there's no facts to this. And it's I would say I would visit churches, but I can't see myself sitting in a church, because every time I sit, the things that come from the pulpit, as is now, it doesn't resonate with what I know to be true of God.
Yeah.
you know but that's my experiences. But I love how you put it, and I'm glad I heard your story, because a lot of people feel like when we talk about things like this, it's church bashing. And it's not church bashing, it's understanding that there's a journey, and in that journey you identify things because you became a free thinker and you decided to research. And so, because you researched and you became a free thinker, you decided to research, you found things that didn't resonate with you and didn't make sense. And you decided to step out on faith and do your own thing with God and have that relationship. So I thank you for that, because I know a lot of our viewers like, oh, people talk about religion. Oh, people talk about religion. It is not necessarily religion. It's the journey to yourself and God. Personal relationship. That's the journey.
Most people, religion,
Go ahead.
you can't talk about life without talking about religion for a lot of
Yeah,
people, because
you
religion
can.
influences our
Yeah.
life. And that's the reason why I keep talking about it,
Yeah.
because, and there are some people who've been in church and they were more progressive than me, and religion did not affect their life the way it affected mine. But there are some of us who, as I stated before, we gave our entire life to religion.
True.
So we didn't have a life
Absolutely.
outside of
That's
religion.
right.
There was no
Yeah.
life. And so the only way for
That's
me to
right.
help people
Yeah.
recover is we have to discuss religion, because they've got to understand how their life got to where it is today. I know people who are
Yes.
still virgins, 50-year-old virgins waiting for their Boaz.
All because
So
all
I've got, in
because
order for us to,
all because of what religion says you should not do.
yes,
All because of what religion
yes.
says you
So
should
in
not
order
do.
for us to even work through their,
I have go ahead, sis. Finish up.
in order for us to work through things like sexual trauma with people like that, we can't work through the sexual trauma until we help them understand how they got there. And we have to break that entire process down. And so for a lot of people, is what you were saying, Doc, we have to redefine what God is to us individually and subjectively, without religion telling us what God is for us.
Correct. I agree totally.
Absolutely.
I agree totally.
For me, Vanessa, and I'm happy that they're exploring this in the mental health space as an actual medical diagnosis. In 2016, when I was having my discovery, waking up, whatever we want to call it, but there were questions. Were there questions before 2016? Absolutely. But 2016 was a big wake up moment for me, because it was the moment when I actually intentionally challenged the things that I was taught versus the things that I was discovering. And what I discovered was a version of God that the church never taught me. I took off my lenses, so to speak, and started seeing the world as it is. And I saw so much beauty around me versus we are the chosen people and everybody else is wrong. I started having like this awakening, and now the world, every race, every person on the planet we were connected. And I started experiencing God in a much bigger way. He wasn't this God to my denomination and not a God to everybody else. And it made me start to question what I was told. And I leaned in a little further, and it was uncomfortable. So for those of you that might be out there asking questions, it doesn't happen overnight. 2016 was just a big moment for me because it had started a little bit before that. It just became like, wait a minute. I've never really challenged what I was told. And then things started to not align with who I was experiencing God to be versus who they told me God was. And I chose to trust my personal walk and my personal relationship that I was developing with God. And I said, I'm going to choose God over man and do what I believe, because now I understood omniscience and omnipresence to be something totally different than what they told me, right? And so I didn't have any fear walking away because I trusted the divine, because I knew now that the divine was within me, not outside of me. And everybody's journey is a little different. Our details are a little different when we start going down that path, but it usually ends up in that same place. And it's individual for each person. And what I wanted to want you to lean into a little bit is talk to the people that are starting to question a little bit, Vanessa. Talk to those folks that are, I don't know if it's right for me to even have this thought, right? Because first you got to give yourself permission to entertain the question right?
That's right.
Before you can even get to the free, because we
Absolutely.
are
Yes.
truly free. And then they
Absolutely.
talk. So lean into
Yes.
that a little bit, sis.
You already did, sis. Yes.
And Vanessa, Vanessa, I just want to say for the people, I just want to add to that, for the people
It's not.
who are
Yes.
dismissing
Yeah.
this to be church
Okay.
hurt,
Oh,
Yes.
speak to
that's
those
good.
people,
Yeah.
Good
please.
answer.
So to the point of
Yes.
questioning, this is a true story. Um, and I'm gonna preface the story by saying it's gonna sound a little harsh, but y'all already know me. So any God that can't be questioned
Well.
needs to be questioned.
Well. Well.
Come
Well.
on.
Well.
Because
Well.
here's what
Well.
I say. And
Well.
this is what I said. This is what I said to the Lord, Jesus, God, all of them, the Holy Ghost, the whole Trinity. We had a Saturday morning meeting a couple of years ago.
Yes.
Okay. And I said to the Trinity, I'm leaving y'all for a
Mercy.
year.
Mm.
I've
Mercy.
been faithful
Mm.
all my life. And I need to walk away for a minute because something's not right here. But if you are who I have believed you to
Mm.
be in a year, I
Mm.
should be able to come right back full circle to
Mm.
you. I'm going to ask a lot of
Mm.
questions. I'm going to do research. I'm going to do what I've never done before. I'm going to challenge my own
Mm.
faith. I'm going to challenge my own
Mm.
beliefs because I had never, ever, ever done that before. In 2007, when Bishop Carlton Pearson did his 2020 interview and the world was in a complete uproar, he got excommunicated. I was at
Uh-huh.
my house and I was thinking to myself, what is the problem? Because I was always teaching when he was teaching. And so that's what I did. For a year, I closed my Bible. And by this point, I had closed the church, so I didn't have church anymore. I closed my Bible and put my Bible on the shelf, all of them, took the app off my phone, and I just went on a journey. I asked all kind of questions. Now, because and I'm still in grad school, but because grad school had me in this mindset of empirical research. So we're not talking about like YouTube videos. I want to go look at scholarly, peer-reviewed research about Jesus, about God, about the church. Where did it come from? What's the origin of the church? What's the origin of Christianity? What did my people do before Christianity? How did Christianity get to America? I asked all those questions. And in my religious
Right.
trauma recovery course, which is free, which I'm going to offer to your viewers in a little bit, I have a piece in there where I walk people through this process of critical research and critical thinking, because these are not things that that the church has given us full permission to do. Okay, when you
Right.
are doing
Right.
critical research, you got to be willing to not just research things that you already believe, because that's just going to create more
Right.
confirmation bias. Okay, and that's just going to create more cognitive dissonance, and you're going to just be stuck. Critical
Right.
research means I have to
Right.
also take a look at evidence that totally opposes what I think is true. Oh my goodness.
Ah.
And that's what Vanessa R. Bliss
Mm.
did. And it was painful to do that, but I had to do it. So I would say to your viewers, give yourself permission to sit still and talk to God, whatever God is for the individual person. And if God
Yeah.
permit us, and if the church can't permit people to do some self-discovery work, to do some research, then we're hiding something. Okay? Because
Right.
the truth does not need to be defended. And if all these concepts are true, then there should be some empirical research, some empirical evidence to prove that these things are true. There's a reason why they just want us to have faith for everything. Now I'm getting in trouble. Faith is okay.
Right.
But when faith is governing your entire life, When you need to make a decision about your personal life and you have to use faith because you don't know how to make a decision, Houston, we have a problem, right?
We do.
We have a problem. So I would
Yeah.
encourage your listeners to lean into the energy of fear, because in religion they made us shame about our emotions. I'm getting to the church hurt part now, because they've made us so afraid and so ashamed of our emotions. Listen, yes, it's fearful. It's scary as hell. Can I say that? He can edit that part out. Okay. It's
Yes,
scary.
you can.
Okay. 'Cause, yes, it's scary, but I want your viewers to fall in love with all of their emotions, all of them,
Yes.
even fear,
Mm-hmm.
because fear is the catalyst for growth and evolution. Because
Come on,
you are
sis.
not going to be successful. You are not going to tap into your full power
Come
if
on.
you walk around. Okay,
Sis, you're still
I'm still a
preaching.
preacher.
You're
It's still
still
in there.
preaching,
It's in
sis.
there. Listen, you are not going to tap into your full power if you're not afraid of anything. Okay?
Right.
You think I got to
Love
this
that.
place today because I wasn't afraid to go there?
Honey,
You think I
talk
grew
about that fear.
I couldn't grow my business without fear. I couldn't get married without
Hey.
fear. Listen, fear is a catalyst for change and evolution.
For growth.
But they taught us to be afraid of
Absolutely.
fear. They taught us that. And they created all those shadows within us. So my first piece of advice is
Yet the Bible says fear not, sis, so
exactly.
many times.
But I
The
thought
word says fear
I
not.
thought God didn't give us the spirit of fear. So
Right?
I want people to, because remember, religious trauma impedes upon your emotional development. So we as a people are emotionally delayed. Okay. So we are afraid of ourselves. So there's nothing to be afraid of out there. I'm a
Say
living
that one more
witness.
time. Say
Okay.
that one
I've
more
been on
time
this.
for our viewers. Say that one more
There's
time. Say that
nothing
one
to
more
be
time for our
afraid
viewers.
of
Say it.
out there. There is no devil that's going to get you. There is no demon that's going to come after you. All of those are energies that we created in our own minds. I know somebody not going to like that, but edit that part out too. Okay. There is no devil, demon lurking behind the bushes to get you because you decided that you want to grow up and think for yourself. Okay. If God
Come on.
did not want us to think, then God could have created us in a way that we didn't have the ability to think. But we have a 3-pound
Right.
organ in our brain, in our head called a brain. Okay. And so I want people to use that. Church hurt, listen,
Yeah.
if I've heard it once, I've heard it a million times that I'm just church hurt. You just bitter. Listen, I've been hurt in the church since the day I got to the church. If I was going to leave the church because I was simply hurt,
Talk about it.
I would have left 50 years ago when I watched my mama get hurt when she was in church. God rest her soul. So yes, I have been hurt in the church. Who hasn't? I've hurt people in the church. Who hasn't? What I'm saying to people is this is bigger than church hurt. I'm talking about my entire
Absolutely.
life. I'm talking about the lives of millions of people.
Absolutely.
This isn't about church hurt. This is about people
Yes.
who 50-year-old women have not had sex yet because they've been taught that it's a sin and they're going to go to hell because they're not married. This is bigger than church hurt. This is about women who have been married to abusive men who've had to bridle their
Come on.
tongue because we told them to submit to their husbands. This is about people
Come on. Bring it home. Bring it home. Come on.
who have been abused and taken advantage of because they don't know how to navigate in the real world. So this is not about church hurt. This is about people who don't know how to live their life. We are spiritual beings and we incarnated down here on this planet to have human experiences. And I'm getting in trouble. Some European church fathers relabeled human experiences and called them sin because they had issues with their
Right.
own sexual urges and their own sexual issues, and they imputed their flaws upon the rest of society and humanity. And I'm here saying, not on my watch anymore. I'm here saying, I'm crying, I'm
Oh,
begging, I'm pleading with anybody that'll listen. Do your research, do your homework, use your mind, think for yourself, get healed, and then go live your best life. Because you only got one shot at it on this side of reality. You might come back later as somebody else, but right now, you got this one opportunity to live your life. And it's really sad that so many of us, especially us as women, that we're literally having to reconstruct, reconfigure, rewire our entire lives because our religion controlled it.
yes,
My religion controlled
yes.
how I raised my children. I had to apologize to my adult children and how I raised them. You know, I had to apologize to my husband. All the hours and days and nights that I should have been making love to him, I was praying for people who could have been praying for themselves. Okay. I had to literally apologize to my sisters because I missed out on so many family functions, and to my brothers because I was so busy up in the church, running around shouting and falling out. Right. So I'm having to rewire my entire life because I gave it over to this religion that really has nothing to do with me. I'm a firm believer that my lineage, and everybody has their own lineage. You have to research yours. My ancestors, they didn't connect to God this way. They did not.
Yeah.
My immediate ancestors were forced to
Doesn't mean they
worship
were
this God.
disconnected from God.
My mother's mother, my father's father, they were forced, but their ancestors before them, they didn't know this
Did not do
abusive,
it.
tyrannical God that religion has given to us. So I want people to look at the Bible. It could be a good book if you know how to read it, if you know how to look at it correctly, if you know where it came from, and you know how to read break the codes. See, now I'm a code breaker, and I'm a Bible code breaker because I know that information has been recopied, rewritten, translated so many times to fit a particular agenda.
The
So
narrative.
this
Yes.
stuff is dangerous, and I'm risking it all because I know y'all just don't know the attacks that I have taken for my stance.
I believe. I'm sure.
I have been drugged through the mud, called everything except Vanessa by God-fearing Christians. But I'm not going to be silent until I take my last breath. That's when I'm going to be silent. I'm going to still be speaking from the other side even then, because it almost destroyed my life. You know, I almost my life to this. And at the age of 52, I'm just learning how to live.
Yeah. Likewise.
That was a long sermon, y'all. I'm sorry.
Wow.
Yes, so needed. Talk about a little bit on how religion has make us see ourselves, like how we see ourselves within religion, all the fear mongering, like as you said, you know, born in sin, the way we make our decisions, like from that perspective.
Yeah, that's part of the trauma. Part of the trauma comes from how we have been indoctrinated to see ourselves from birth. So remember, again, the first problem is this original sin doctrine that tells us that we were born in sin. How many times have y'all heard that? How many times have you said that? So
And almost with a prayer too.
Right. And so when a child comes into the world, we as mothers, we as Christian mothers, look at our own baby, and whether we do this consciously or whether we do this subconsciously, we're looking down at a sinner. And so we start programming and conditioning our own children then. Because now we're thinking, oh my God, my child is a sinner and God does not love my child, and I gotta whip my child into shape. And so we silence our children, okay, because of scriptures like obey your parents. Well, we take that to mean to silence your child. So then we as adults, we grow up and we lack poor communication skills. We don't know how to communicate.
True.
We don't know how to believe in ourselves. We don't know how to trust ourselves. We're taught not to trust ourselves. Lean not to your own understanding.
Yes.
We're taught that.
Yeah, all of ourselves.
All of ourselves. Okay. We're made to feel guilty for desiring sex. We're made to feel guilty for looking at a man. We're told that if we look at a man, we've already committed adultery. All these things that are subconsciously playing in the background of our human self is affecting how we navigate into the world. And so we show up in the world very developmentally delayed. We show up in the world very broken and very wounded. We don't have confidence in ourselves, which means that I believe most of us are not even at the level
Our high
that
self
we
is
should be,
broken. Yeah.
because there's been a
Our
lot of
high self is
psychological damage
broken.
that's been
Yeah.
done to us.
Yes.
So it's affected us greatly. I look at my daughter, and I'm so glad that she's only 23, and now I have the opportunity, y'all, for the first time in her life for the last 3 years, we've been healing our relationship, and the fact that she can talk to me about
Yes.
anything now. Whereas before she could not, and that's
Yes.
how she got in a lot of trouble, because she knew her mama was a pastor
Yeah.
preacher, and so she was sneaking, doing things, normal things. It wasn't even that she was doing anything harmful, but because she knew how her mama
Yeah.
was, she was out experimenting and
Yeah.
exploring things, and she almost
Yeah.
got herself killed, because she could talk to her mama about the things that she was experimenting with, because she knew her mama was gonna try to cast that
Mercy.
spirit out of her. So
Mercy.
this is damaging. So just being able to talk to my
Yeah.
daughter and giving her the space to know, and my son who's 26, that there's absolutely nothing that you can't tell me, Jada, that I'm never going to judge you. I'm never going to make you feel less than. And I have to work on it, because I still
Yes.
catch myself talking to her in the tone of
Yes.
Pastor Brooks.
Yeah.
And when you
Mhm.
hear the things you
Yeah.
say, when you become awakened, you actually can hear
Yes.
yourself talking
Yes.
now.
Yeah.
And I
Yes.
hear myself
Yes.
saying things to her, and I have to take it back. Baby, I'm sorry. I'm still working on me,
That's a
Jada. I'm still
powerful
working
thing,
on
though.
that.
That's a powerful thing
So
where you
y'all,
can do that. That's a powerful
So,
thing, though. That's a
yeah.
powerful thing where you can do that. Yes.
So,
Able to know whose voice is it?
Yes.
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 Really coming
Who's
from you,
what?
or is it someone else in the church voice
Yeah.
that is, that you're now basically stating what you were taught, and it's
Yeah.
not something that you now know
right.
is true.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Understand? I wanted to say, just to share a little bit, and a part of my story, being raised in the church where they think it is more of bringing you closer to God. I experienced where it actually brought me away, in a sense, because the first time when I heard God's voice audibly, when He told me that I was going to get pregnant, I actually looked around and no one was there with me. So I was in a space by myself and no one was there, and I heard it audibly, just like us were talking.
Mhm.
And the first thing that came to mind was, I know that's not God, because I'm not worthy of His voice.
Wow.
Because of all the things you said, you talked about the thing that, well, because I did this, I do that, and I'm not perfect, or I'm not this, so He can never be talking to me. So it has to be me in my own head. Until I got and the next day when I went to work, a girlfriend came and said, don't you have something to say to me? And I said, no. And she said, I had a dream about you last night, that you're pregnant and you're going to have a girl and she's special. That's how He has to go through others who are just talking about it right now, gives me chill. For me to recognize that, yeah, I was talking to you.
Mhm.
I don't see what they see. I see the higher you, the you that I called you to be, the you that is going to rise up and encourage other women to see themselves in such a beautiful way. So, sometimes when they believe that I am guiding her, they're just being too guarded for the fact that you're not even able to know you, which is sad. 40 as well, Kia. 40 is when I start to know me, and that is just, that fear is deep and
Yeah.
strong. That fear of,
Yeah.
that God is not there with you when He's so
All
there
the
with you,
time.
walking in such a beautiful.
Absolutely. I think that was one of the first
Yeah.
I
revelations that
just
I
wanted
had, was
to,
that for to try to it's kind of funny now to even think that God has any religion. Like, it's just kind of funny to me for us to think that
Right.
God would even say, well, this is my religion of choice. Like, it's it's almost funny. But and this is what I try to
Yeah.
clearly say to people, because one of the first things they ask me is, so you don't believe in God anymore? So I want to, before we get out of here, I want to make that clear.
Yes.
I will say I had to redefine my understanding of God. I divorced the God of religion because that God traumatized me. Through therapy, and through working with other spiritual people over the last few years, I have been able to redefine or understand God in a much bigger way than the religious box I had got in. So I just want to say to people, if that's part of their fear, because I think from what I'm hearing from a lot of people that I'm connected to, their fear is they are afraid of doing this research, going on this journey, and then not having anything. And I want to take that fear away from people if I can. That, for me anyway, atheism is not something that I turn to. This did not lead to atheism for me. For some people it does, and that's fine too. But for me, it didn't. And I love what you said, Marsha, is that I want people to understand God is not looking at us in the way that we were taught. Spirit, I call God spirit. I sometimes saying God makes me it, but because it's my trauma, y'all. Just don't judge me. But spirit, God, the divine
Yeah.
consciousness source, whatever you call the higher power, is not separate from us. And just like Yolande said, part of my awakening was realizing, oh, I'm one with spirit. I'm one with everything in this universe. All of us are one, and we're all connected to each other. And so when people go on
Yeah.
this journey, they don't have to throw out the whole concept of the reality of God. I'm just talking about what religion
Right.
has done. So separate religion from God, and I think that's a good place to start their journey.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Beatrice, I'm
Sis, I
surprised.
want you to go
I'm surprised you
ahead.
didn't say more, Beatrice.
She can't hear you.
Oh,
She was messaging us that she can't hear you, so I'm sorry.
oh.
Let me see if we can wave at her. B, your turn.
Mute.
Oh, okay. Well, it sounds like she can't hear you and we can't hear her. You're on mute though, honey. But Vanessa, go ahead and throw out your offer.
I can hear, no, Yolande, I can hear everybody's
That is
conversation, but
crazy.
I was not able to hear
Oh,
Vanessa for
okay.
whatever
Well, she
reason.
was wondering why you haven't chimed up yet. So
Yeah, but I
chime
can
in.
hear all of you
Okay.
because I couldn't hear
Chime
anything.
in.
Okay. Well, I, I'm not sure what Vanessa's comments have been for the last few minutes or so, but some of the questions that I have for the church folks that may be watching this is some of what you described, they would classify as walking in disobedience. That's why we're here. Also, the traumas that we're talking about, they would say things like, it would be so dismissive, because when I think of the church, what I now know, what I have come up with my own opinions of what my church experience was, is the church is it's a very toxic and narcissistic environment, and it contradicts itself in a lot of ways, right? They make excuses for their toxic ways, from the pulpit on down to the members and how they treat one another, right? It's an environment that is very much unlike what is in the doctrine of peace and brotherhood. So, just for those that are out there who are listening, who might be, whether they are, dismissing what we're saying, or they are questioning, afraid to question, because I first encountered Vanessa in 2018, and I still had on my church ears because I was going through a lot at that time. And I remember when I was listening to her, I was like, oh my God. if I listen to what she's saying, if I continue to listen to this woman and what she's talking about, I'm gonna backslide. I'm gonna come out of the church completely because I was not prepared to hear what she was saying with my own ears versus what I've been taught and have been indoctrinated with over the years. So for those people who may be at that point where I was 4 years ago, I'd like to speak to them at that the questions that you have, they're legit. The questions that you have every right to question them. The contradictions that you're finding in your Bible.
Okay, Vanessa, go ahead.
Okay. I'll say this and then we can wrap up. I really can't speak to those people, y'all. And I'm saying that in all humility because they can't hear me right now. The people who think that, the people who are dismissive, the people who think that this is disobedience, they're just not ready yet. And one of the things that I learned on this journey really early, because initially I was trying to just help everybody because that's what I do. But one of the things I learned through going through therapy, one of the things I learned just because of my own knowledge of counseling, you can't help people who are not ready to be helped. You can't wake up people who are not ready to wake up. And so my answer to that is I can't even speak to those people because they can't hear me right now. They're indoctrinated like I was, and I wouldn't have been able to hear me either 5 years ago. So I can't even expect those people to hear me. My message is for those people who are questioning their faith or who are questioning their spiritual journey and they're ready to at least consider some things. That's who my message is for.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
They have to be in their birthing season.
Yeah,
basically.
I agree.
Exactly.
That is an excellent answer. It is so true. And I'm evidence of that because in 2018, I did not hear you. I could not hear you because I was not ready to receive and process what you were even saying. It wasn't until I experienced my own awakening, right? And even us in this space that we're not trying to convert you. We're not trying to get you to be over here with us. You know, we are speaking to and we're connecting to those who are in a place of transition. But and we're all believers. We believe in God. We just don't believe in the doctrine of human. What would I call that? Of man-made doctrine and the what is that called? The institution of church and what it stands for. Because a lot of times people think that you don't believe in God anymore, you know.
Yeah.
Wow. Thank you. I think we're going to go into our soul jam because I know you have a lot of tools in your box. You have a lot of tools that you utilize with your clients. And I know you brought something for us today, Vanessa, for those who are in that space, in their birthing season, who's ready to transition into their new self and their higher self. Is there something that you would like to share so that they could pick back up either today or later on just to help them to
my tool is a little different. Because y'all know I don't do things exactly right. I want to offer your viewers my course. It's free, but they need to. I'm going to share the link with you if that's okay. And I don't know if you can post that link somewhere, but I created an entire course. It's called Religious Trauma Recovery Course. It's got so many tools in it. And it's not even about bashing Christianity. I don't even talk about religion a lot in there. I give a brief definition of what religious trauma is. I give the signs, the symptoms, but the program is really about self-discovery. So they're going to find an amazing self-discovery workbook in there, an amazing self-discovery journal in there. They're going to find some amazing affirmation cards in there. They're digital affirmation cards. It's power packed. They're going to find an exercise to help them improve their relationships, to help them improve their critical thinking skills. I put a lot of work into this program, and Spirit told me to create it, and Spirit told me to offer it as a free resource for people who come into the space. So I don't know how I can get that to you. I can email you the link, and they can enroll themselves because it's a take at your own pace type of course. But until then, what I would say in terms of a tangible tool, a verbal tool, I would say know thyself, discover thyself, heal thyself. You are worthy to be healed, and you are worthy to have the best human experience possible while you're here. So get the course, go through the program, and I hope that it helps and blesses your viewers.
Oh, definitely. Thank you so much. We look forward to receiving that link. You could, like you said, email it, put it in the
Okay.
messenger, and we get it over to our awesome producer, so we could put it in the description
Excellent.
box.
I will do that today.
Thank
Well, Vanessa, we thank you so much for sharing your experience and knowledge and your expertise in that area. Because I know our viewers, the people that are ready and open to going through that journey, because you have to be open to go through that journey, the questioning, and as we all been echoing, that it's not easy.
Right.
And the fears, we're going to have to do it with the fear. And as with everything in life, we have to move even with the fear. It's not of the absence of it, it's do it with the fear. And then on the other side of the fear is freedom. So so I wanted to, just encourage everybody who's watching us to really get start when the questioning happening. Find your tribe, find the people that can really support that. That's not going to mute you or silence you. Because if you share what the questions you are having with the wrong people, they're going to put you in that box again that you are trying to come out of. So it's important that you find and align yourself with people, even if all of you are asking questions. It's very important to do that. That way you don't feel so alone, because it could be a lonely journey, especially if you're doing it alone. So with that being said, I want to invite you guys to like and follow our page on Facebook and subscribe to this channel. We have a lot of we bring a lot of different topics that can help you in your development and your journey and the process of becoming the best version of yourself. So thank you.
Thank you, Vanessa, for joining us. We so appreciate your knowledge, your wisdom, your beauty, your grace. We appreciate you stopping by at Her Sacred Soul Space, and we value you. And we look forward to connecting in the future. I'm pretty sure this is not going to be the only time we get to hang out in this space.
Thank y'all so much for having me. I really appreciate it. I love you.
Love you back. Thank you, Vanessa.
You're such a great teacher.
Yeah. Thank you again. I appreciate all the gems that you've given us. It is a serious topic, especially for those who've been through the journey. And just if you never had confirmation, you have it now. I'm a fellow clinician, so I feel everything you were saying regarding even the DSM-V5, and I'm happy that they're allowing this to enter into the new updated one, because it is very real. So thank you so much. And keep doing what you're doing, because there's a lot of people out there that need your message. It may be hard because, sometimes we get the pushback, but those who need it, God will send to you, and you'll set them free just by using you as a vessel. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you for your bravery.
Yes.
Really.
Yes.
I appreciate it much. I don't know why I feel so on this conversation. I've been doing so many interviews in the last 2 weeks. It's crazy. But today I'm literally like fighting.
That's what happens
tears,
over
and
here,
that
honey.
don't happen over here. But
That's what happens over here, honey.
I feel so
That's
full
what
right
happens
now.
over here.
So when this is over, I'm gonna go over there and
That's
just cry,
all right.
and then I'll be okay.
That's all right. That's a good cry.
That's all right.
No problem.
It's a good thing.
That's a good cry.
That's right.
Have a good one, and thank you. Have a good one, and thank you.
Okay, thank you,
ladies. Thank you.
Bye-bye, y'all.
Bye. Okay.
Yeah, that was great. That was great. Deep topic.
That was
great.
Yeah.
Deep topic.
So, we are the tearjerkers. I see.
We
Yes.
are all into our sacred soul plate. This is where we are just gonna kind of share what is it that moved our heart, that moves our soul. So, like we're not trying to hold you long. We're just gonna drop a little thing that we just think that you should keep in your heart space, your soul space, as you go out through the rest of the week and the month. So let's get it, Miss Beatrice. What is it that you wanna share? What is it that resonated with you, my darling?
I just want everyone to
Okay.
know that
I don't know, but I
you are
actually
one
love, I'm going to say, when she said, go ahead, Beatrice.
I just want everyone to know that you are divine. You are one with the one. Okay. It's, the one is not outside of you. The one is within you. And that is why a simple, like a praise and worship song, or like when you meditate, or when you think back to a time where, you almost lost it all, and the divine stepped in and had that ram in the bush for you, so to speak. That's because you are so close. The divine is within you. So there's nothing outside of you. Everything that you have is within you already. You are already sent here with everything that you need to live out this journey on this side. So get to know you, heal from your past traumas. And the more healing that you do, the more clarity that you'll have. And the better you'll be able to, as Vanessa says, and as I'm trying to do, is live your best life. Because you only have one life to live in this lifetime. And a lot of us are starting it late. I'm 44 years old. And I love the woman that I am today. It took me a long time to get here. So get to know you and the source within you.
Amen. Amen.
I am present. I am present. I love when she said, if you're not going to tap in your true power if you're afraid of anything. So fear is the catalyst to your power. And there are a lot of times, and I'm speaking from experience, where fear just shows up so big and you pause, not recognizing it's not as big as you think it is. It's just one little cloudy thing of which you have to walk through. So, walk through it. We're here to walk through it with you. We have our YouTube. We have our Her Sacred Soul Space page. You can easily connect with each of us collectively or individually. We're here to walk with you as well. So, just want to say.
For me, on Soul Plate, so the guy doesn't look, guys. Full disclosure, my lawn guys are here, so I hope you can't hear them right now. But I wanted to jump in with the Soul Plate. It impedes upon religious trauma, impedes upon your emotional development. That part really sat with me because having been raised in the church, and for me, my journey started at 43. I was out by 44. And started finding my way in the spiritual space. I'm now 49, going on 50. Yay. And I would like to say, if you're finding that you're emotionally impaired and you're somebody who was churched a lot, start leaning into getting some help. If you're finding yourself not being able to make decisions, oh my gosh, that's a big one. Oh, I need to do X, Y, and Z before. Honey, if you need to get a car, go buy the car. Figure out which one you like and go get it. God doesn't need to be a part of that conversation. Not like that. Not the way they've taught you. Just think about it. What is it? Where are you finding yourself emotionally impaired? Unable to make decisions, feeling fear. All of that stuff is real. And if you feel that this is speaking to you, reach out for help. Marsha already told you. You can hit us inside of our group. If you're already in our group, send us a message. We will find somebody. There are practitioners in here that can help you. There's Kia, there's me, there's Marsha, there's Beatrice, there's Natalie. We are all healers in this space. There's Vanessa. So I don't want you to feel alone. Reach out for help if this resonates with you in any way.
Yes, absolutely. With that being said, they said everything. Everything was said. And if you lean in, Just feel in your heart what resonate with you, and if this resonate with you, this space feels good for you, just tap in. Okay, we also have an Instagram page. It's still Her Sacred Soul Space. So there's many ways to connect with us, and if we are not the people for you, find the people for you. That's pretty much where it stands.
Yes. So just real quick, she said something that I really it popped in my head. She said she'd probably get in trouble for it, but she gonna say it. And that was, if the God that you serve can't be questioned, then that's the God that you need to question, right? My thing is, we fear so much of asking questions and being free thinkers and researching, we think we're going against. But in actuality, it's actually getting us closer to a relationship, having a relationship with God, with your higher power, with spirit. And the thing about it is, there's so much fear around questioning that it stifles us, you know. And if you really truly want to be free in God, in spirit, in Jesus, whoever is your higher power, go ahead and question, go ahead and research, because if it's true, you'll get closer, and you don't need a building to do that. You know, that's from your heart, you know. And like everyone said here, and I agree, God is within. So you're getting good with yourself as well, right? So definitely question, definitely research, be a free thinker, don't be afraid, and don't allow anyone to stifle that journey for you. All right, we're here. This is the best place to be. I love my sisters. I love all of you new subscribers and old ones. Continue to tell people who is here, why we're here, because at the end of the day, this is the place where we tackle the conversations that not many people want to talk about. But it's okay, because we want you to be free in information, and then you go on and research for yourself. So thank you for being here. Continue to tell your friends, family members, anyone. I even see men in here, and I love it, because that means they want to know more about us. I love it. So welcome, 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 and bring some more with you.
Yeah.
Yes.
We love and appreciate you so
Yes.
much.
Absolutely.
So the first sacred soul space.
Boom.
One love always, and
Boom.
take care, right? Okay.
Well, good.
Bye.